Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great having you on the channel today. Yeah, we're covering tropical weather as well as winter weather. The two are overlapping, so to speak. So we're going to be watching some sort of tropical wave, tropical disturbance, try to get its act together across Central America here. The good news is it's looking more further south and west in time. But it looks like it could meander for days, so we'll be looking at the possibility that this could be quite a heavy rain maker. It looks like it pretty much stays away from the Gulf as well. And could we be racking up the snowfall totals across the east? Look at parts of interior Great Lakes and even into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast over the next 2 weeks. Let's get into it. All right, so looking at the GFS model here, and then I'll flip over to the European model. We'll see what's going on. We do have a little wave southeast of Trinidad Tobago here, and then that's going to be moving west-northwest here. This is a pretty vigorous wave. We also have another one just east of Nicaragua, Honduras here. So we're watching these two areas. There is an interesting area off the east coast when you're Bermuda, but that will be heading out to sea. That's the tail end of a frontal boundary. So look at this. As we stretch through the 9th into the 10th later on this weekend, into early next week, we got some heavier showers moving through Dominican Republic. Thankfully, things are clearing out around Jamaica. Our thoughts and prayers are with you during this cleanup effort. I know it's got to be tremendously awful after a Category 5. None of us can even imagine such a thing. But you do have some sunny days coming up, which is some good news. It looks like this next tropical wave disturbance type thing, this one weekends, and then this becomes our primary area of concern across Central America. So the northern coastline of Honduras in particular, that's what we're going to be looking at here. We do get some showers trying to move up towards Jamaica. I think at this point, though, it looks like the worst of it stays south and southwest of Jamaica. You can see a low pressure center trying to form around Nicaragua. So yeah, if the system stays further to the south, it's more likely to develop. It will have more land interaction to keep it weaker. But this latest run of the GFS showing a landfalling system across parts of Nicaragua and Honduras with tremendous amounts of rain here, especially along northern Honduras to eastern Belize here. So we'll keep an eye on it here. You ultimately see this is a tail end of a frontal boundary by this point. So it's pretty much hooking up with this area of storminess. Look at that, showers up through Cayman Islands as well. But you can see the center of this, whatever this becomes, it could remain a tropical wave, tropical disturbance. It could become a depression or maybe even a weak tropical storm. But as I mentioned in the previous update video, I pretty much thought the Gulf was off limit. And look at that. Yeah, the front pretty much completely keeps the Gulf free of any of these tropical systems. And this one kind of just sits here and fizzles out through the 17th and the 18th. So we're looking at areas, I would say Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, and then the outer areas, southwestern areas of the Cayman Islands. You see how it kind of just congeals here. It does try to get its act together. This is going pretty far out, though. November 20th here. It does try to make a resurgence south and east of Jamaica towards Haiti and Dominican Republic. So that's a possibility we'll have to keep an eye on here. We have plenty of time to watch the system. So I think at this point, the main threat with this system would be torrential rains. Let's take a look at the Euro. And here we are, thanks to Tropical Tidbits, for our European tropical model analysis. You can see the showers and thunder showers across the Lesser Antilles as we stretch through Friday. Here is that system trying to be very persistent here across the southwestern Caribbean Sea. You can see that's spinning up some showers here with this second wave towards Dominican Republic as we see a train of tropical moisture here behind it as we stretch through Sunday into Monday. You start to see the pattern, though. The Euro is also trending a bit further south and west. You can see this big ball of moisture here. There's that frontal boundary heading across the Gulf here. Look what really starts to happen. European really focusing on northern part of Honduras, Belize as well. I think this is going to become the corridor where we see some tremendous heavy rain here. Whatever happens with this system, whether it becomes a tropical storm, tropical depression, or stays a tropical wave or disturbance, it's still going to produce some very, very heavy rain, and that's going to become the focal point along this front as well. Now, so far, it looks like the worst of it stays away from Jamaica. It's going to be really close, though, for you. Cayman Islands, looks like some heavy rain. Now, let's see what the European does with this system. It does try to spin it north towards the Yucatan. It washes out for a couple days like the GFS showed. Look at back towards Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, looking much quieter. Jamaica, maybe a few showers by the 17th here as well. But look at that. The Euro is much more optimistic, pretty much clears the whole picture out of this system by the 20th. Still some residual showers along the northern coastline of Honduras here. But this is so weird. Look at this down here. The European is still showing a tropical wave, showing up just southeast of Trinidad and Tobago with another wave south of Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. We'll keep an eye on it here. And here we go with the sea surface temperature analysis. There's plenty of warm waters here into the western, southwestern Caribbean for this potential system to feed off of. So we're running about 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees, 2.5 degrees above average here. All right, so we're looking at the Western Caribbean here. You can see rainfall amounts exploding as we head into next week. Look at the northern coastline of Honduras. Thankfully, Jamaica, it looks like it's trending west and southwestward, so it's going to keep you into the 30, 40, maybe 70 millimeter range in some of these eastern areas, but Dominican Republic as well, right around 20, 30 millimeters locally higher. Here is northern Honduras. Look at this, 400 millimeters. Some of these areas could be close to 500 millimeters, widespread 200 to 400 millimeters. Eastern parts of Belize, upwards of 150, 175 millimeters. Cayman Islands, you're right on the edge of about 100 millimeters here. Looking at the Western Caribbean here, GFS. Yeah, this is what we got going on. GFS is much worse than the European model. So here we have it. Look at parts of northern Honduras. You have some amounts in the 900 millimeter range. This would be devastating mudslides, tremendous flooding. We'll keep an eye on it here. So far, it's keeping the worst of it south of Jamaica, even if it does try to head eastward here. It looks like it's got a trajectory more towards Hispaniola, but as I said before, things can change. So even up here in the Bahamas with the stalled frontal boundary, many areas approaching 125 to 150 millimeters. And we're taking a look here at the Eastern Caribbean. Look at this. So tropical wave still moving through the Central Lesser Antilles, Southern Lesser Antilles, and we still see that moisture creeping up here on Trinidad Tobago as we stretch through the third week of November. It looks like most areas staying around 50, 60, 70 millimeters. Some of these eastern-facing locations here, the Central, Northern Lesser Antilles up towards 100, 145 millimeters. Puerto Rico and St. Croix, you're kind of in a rain hole here. About 1/4 to 1/2 an inch on average. And looking at the Eastern Caribbean for the GFS, yeah, as we go through time here, look what's going to be happening. Tropical waves will be surging. And unfortunately, that means more rain. Wow. Yeah, the GFS is the outlier here, showing the system swinging back east. We'll have to keep an eye on this for Jamaica, also Hispaniola, Haiti, and Dominican Republic, because this could spin up some of these 400, 500, 600 millimeter amounts back your way. Parts of eastern Puerto Rico, maybe up to 3, 4 inches on this GFS model, and much wetter on the GFS model than the European was. Trinidad Tobago up towards 125, 170 millimeters in some of these areas. And here we are with the dry air analysis. Yeah, you can see our system does have a lot of moisture to work with. There is some dry air, but look at this. This front has some tropical moisture from the Eastern Pacific. That's going to help re-energize the moisture plume here and help shelter the system a bit. But then after November 16th, look what really starts to happen across much of the Caribbean. Dry air, just like in the Gulf, completely takes over. This could be the sign of a tropical shutdown. And looking at our wind shear analysis here. Yeah, as we go through Saturday and Sunday, look at the wind shear slackening over our potential system here. All the wind shear is up here across the Yucatan and Cuba. Look at down in through here. The wind shear goes almost next to nothing. So if this system does stay further south and west, yeah, it'll have more land interaction, but it will also have more moisture to work with. And maybe some slow strengthening towards maybe a minimal tropical storm. So we'll watch out for that. But look at that. After the 20th, wind shear takes over the entire Caribbean just like it has been in the Gulf. Looking at our future radar here, yeah, things are pretty quiet. High pressure cresting over the Carolinas here off the East Coast. We do have our next system dropping down across the lakes here. Spark some stronger showers and thunderstorms here from Chicago up to Lansing. This is 5 a.m. on your Friday morning. And look at this. This is a sharp line of showers and thunder showers. You might have some high winds out of these as they approach Cleveland right around 11 a.m. Some gusty showers and thunder showers moving through Erie, Buffalo as well through the lunch hour here. And look at that. Progressing into eastern Ohio, western New York, western Pennsylvania. Look at by 4 p.m. We're almost to Binghamton here. Right around the evening rush, we start to get this line of convection moving through 5, 6, 7 p.m. And this ultimately heads right down through the Appalachians here and into southeastern New England as well, reaching New York City up to Boston around 1 a.m., 2 a.m., Cape Cod area. So it's a quick mover. And then there's another system behind it. So let's just kick over to, because I wanted to show you the convective elements. Let's go to precipitation depiction here. And as we go through time, there's no snow with that tomorrow. So it'll be too warm for that. But the next system, this one dropping down, this is 1 p.m. on the 8th. So we're getting into Saturday. This is the system that's going to open the door for some snow. All right, so the wind situation looks really bad here across the east as we continue through Friday here. Look at this. Winds will be howling 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts across parts of the Ohio Valley and to the northeast. Thankfully, that moves away for Saturday, so you get a quiet day. But look at as we head towards Sunday at 1 p.m. here. And then Monday, we get a little bit of slackening. But watch as this coastal low tries to form with this inverted trough. We start to see the ridge tops of the Appalachians. 40, 50, 60 mile per hour gusts. This moves all the way up into the northeast. This is 1 p.m. on Tuesday. So we're dealing with, look at this, right off the North Carolina coast, 60, 65 mile per hour gusts making their way up the coastline here. This is going to be one gusty system. And look at this. We head through all week, Thursday into Friday next week, 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts just about every day. You know this is going to be really painful for some people, these pressure gradients, and takes the toll on the human body with past injuries, ligaments, and joints. Severe weather is going to be a big thing as we stretch through Friday. Look at this. There is actually a slight risk into central and parts of Kentucky and Tennessee here. A marginal risk, southern Ohio, all the way down to the Gulf Coast here. Watch out. And as we stretch through Saturday, look at this. Marginal risk across Mississippi, Alabama, and into Georgia and South Carolina. And looking at picking up where our future radar left off as we continue through the weekend here. This is the system I wanted to show you, this little clipper type system. It does try to spin out of the southwest here. It's going a little bit further north this time, dragging some warmer air with it as we get into the 9th here. So getting on into Sunday, so to speak here. It starts out as rain showers in many areas, but look at how it starts to change to wet snow right around Cleveland here at 7 p.m. on Sunday evening. Now, there is one thing that's kind of cropping up here, 4 a.m. on the 10th. So we're getting into Monday morning. Look at the back edge of this system. We have an area of low pressure. We're having that lake response behind it here. But the GFS wants to break out some very heavy wet snow across the Poconos, Catskills, parts of the western Hudson Valley. It is fast moving, though, so it wouldn't be for very long, but it could promote a couple inches across these areas. And look at the lake effect really kick in behind it here. Yeah, you know some of these areas are going to be those snow belts. Northeast Ohio, northwest Pennsylvania, western New York. And we kind of just congeal this all week long. Look at this. We even have a Georgian Bay connection up here on the upper Great Lakes going across parts of Lake Ontario to the 13th and 14th. So we're going to watch out for some heavy lake effect snow here. Next clipper moving through about the 15th into the 16th. Watch out, though. This clipper does try to go a little negatively tilted here. Does have a warm front out ahead of it, too. This could break out some widespread heavy wet snow. Look at this. So this would be for the 15th. So we're looking at next Saturday. So we have time to watch this. Snow all the way down to New York City here, parts of central New Jersey. Look at northeast Pennsylvania as well. So we're getting into a snowy weather pattern here. We're going to see these low pressures just drop south, one right after another, try to spin up some of these areas of low pressure. This next one's warmer as we head towards the 21st, but you get the idea. We do start to see evidence of a Colorado low trying to pivot out here, and that would drag some big-time warm air, probably likely towards Thanksgiving. All right, so here we go, picking up where our feature radar left off for our European model. That system moving out. So the first system is the first part of the weekend, and then look at the second system here. Let's just back it up here for a second. You can see our second system as we stretch. Let's go to our... There we go. So we can go further out on the model. This is what we're going to be looking at. So let's just back this up to right about noon hour on Sunday. You can see it moving through northeast Ohio. It starts as rain, so that has been the more trend to keep this rain initially, and then a secondary coastal low. Want to draw your attention to these bend in the isobars. There is a trough, an inverted trough hanging back across Ohio and Indiana on the Euro. This would magnify snowfall totals across Ohio, Indiana, and maybe down into parts of the Appalachians here too. Look at this. So we stretch on into Monday. This is Monday morning, early Monday afternoon. This would be extremely blustery and would send snowflakes all the way down to northeast Georgia. So this is something we need to keep an eye on. This is definitely very interesting. One thing to note too is how tight the isobars are. The wind is going to be howling here. Tremendous wind action. Look at that. And that just continues most of the week next week. So your aches and pains, if you're susceptible to those, it is going to be brutal. Look at this, lake effect snow continuing on the backside of that system. Then we get a little bit of a reprieve here. This is a Colorado low that's going to drag some very warm air north and eastward here and send a series of low pressures across the Great Lakes into the northeast. High pressure building in. This is just before Thanksgiving week, and it looks like a surge of warm air again on the east side of this Colorado low. All right, so liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here on our GFS. If we get the right product here we go. So watching this go out here in time, you can see over the next couple weeks, we're looking at some very heavy precipitation here across parts of the Ohio Valley, eastern Great Lakes, even the East Coast. GFS has backed off a bit, though, from previous runs, about an inch or two, locally higher to 3 inches. Look at the southeast, kind of a rain hole here. Look it up here into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. This is where we'll see the totals rack up. And rainfall amounts on the European model, with our weekend system pushing up through here. We got those double systems, but look at that. Yeah, we'll look at the West Coast there. That's crazy rainfall all the way down to Los Angeles, but look at this. Yeah, even the Ohio Valley, Lakes Northeast, kind of a rain hole through Florida and the Carolinas here, just a little bit in eastern North Carolina, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. But look at widespread, 1 to as much as 3 inches in many of these areas. All right, so snowfall here on our GFS. Let's rack this snowfall up. So there it is, northeast Ohio, northwestern Pennsylvania. GFS has backed off a bit on snowfall totals here. But look at the following weekend, Friday night, Saturday into November 15th. That's that next system trying to push in. This does look like a very interesting system. Here's Cleveland right around an inch or two. But look at east of here. Wow. 6 to 12 inches in the Twin Tiers of New York and Pennsylvania, and another bullseye up here across the northern parts of the Catskills, close to a foot. So, yeah, even some snow down towards New York City, 1 to 2 inches. We'll have to watch where this rain-snow line sets up. It looks really interesting. And here we are with snowfall amounts on the European run. Let's see how it's looking. So, yeah, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday. It looks interesting. European is going a little bit more widespread with our weekend system. Bullseye across north central Indiana there. Here's Cleveland right around 2 inches. Erie, 2 inches. Buffalo, 1 to 2 inches. Parts of upstate New York here. Look at this, right around an inch in Binghamton. Look at the Adirondacks, though, a foot up towards the northern white and green mountains as well. Look at this snowfall all the way down through the Appalachians. Eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, some of these areas 3 to 6 inches. So we'll have to watch out for this. This looks pretty interesting. And before I continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, please, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. Really does help. Question or comment down below. Always love reading and responding to your questions or comments. Subscribe, bell notification button. I'm coming out with my 2025-26 winter outlook. Finishing touches are going on it. Hopefully in the next couple days to a week, it will be out. Look for that. Let's continue with more weather coverage. All right, our NAO index is going very negative. It looks like we're going to stay negative through the rest of November here. Stormy times are ahead. Could that mean more snow? And here we are with our MJO index, phase 5 right in the middle. We're heading towards phase 6 and phase 7 later in the month into early December. That would mean stormier times are ahead for eastern North America. All right, so the upper air pattern here, it has massive troughiness across the east. Look at especially late weekend into early next week. You know somebody's going to see a major snowstorm out of this somewhere, and it's going to pivot up the coast here as we search through midweek. We're just going to be looking at tremendous storminess all across the Great Lakes, northeast and east coast here as we continue all the way through next weekend as well. So 2 weekends in a row, and then we finally start to get some ridging. How long is this going to last? Well, it looks like as we stretch on into close to Thanksgiving week here. Western Pacific is pretty active. We're looking at newly formed tropical storm Feng Wang here. And we're also looking at Typhoon Kalmaji here. Yeah, this one is making landfall. If we just back it up here on the GFS, you can see it pretty much is making, it's a fast mover. So flooding is not going to be that big of a concern. You can see a category 3 here as it's moving inland. It's a fast mover, so it's already well inland here. You also have Feng Wang here. This is going to be our next player. Unfortunately, this is going to have implications for the northern Philippines. Look at this, how it strengthens. Could it become a super typhoon? It's going to be close. Category 3, maybe a 4. We're looking at November 9th here. It's also a very fast mover, making landfall. Looks like the afternoon of November 9th. And then, of course, it weekends and then tries to head towards either South China or Taiwan during this time. But yeah, just backing it up here, Japan looks pretty quiet during this time, with the exception for the southern Japanese islands as Feng Wang here gets caught up in the westerlies. You see a surge of tropical moisture here across South Korea and Japan during this time. Also, another tropical system trying to get its act together behind Feng Wang here, and that heads towards South China, weekends here into northern Vietnam. But you see up here towards Japan, another synoptic system moving through right around the 22nd. Doesn't look like there's anything trying to form behind it here, though. And look at the rainfall here across the western Pacific. Yeah, it's the northern Philippines that are going to be the winner of the tremendous rainfall here with another system behind it. Look at that. A lot of that rain up there in Japan falls right around the 16th, 17th, but kind of shuts off. Here we go for the northern Philippines. Some of these areas, 400 to 600 millimeters. Parts of northeastern Taiwan here, 300 millimeters. Not too much across Japan. There are some areas close to 100, 115 millimeters. Look at most of South Korea, though. There's not a drop here in Seoul. All right, so looking at your Canadian weather forecast here, look at southern Ontario and Quebec. We're going to see that burst of heavier snow as we stretch through the rest of Friday into Saturday here. It brings some rain showers up towards Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island here. Behind it, pretty quiet. Look at the west coast, though. British Columbia, we're seeing those Pacific systems just blast in. Also, some northern areas of the prairies getting some heavy snow up here towards Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And then you start to see towards Ontario again. Look at the 11th here. This is a burst of some very heavy snow, maybe even some thunder snow dropping down across Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City here. And then it kind of moderates a little bit throughout the day. But you can see, yeah, we're left with some very snow showery weather across southeast Canada here. Mountain snow out towards British Columbia with these Pacific systems. Yeah, you see these systems one right after another. Toronto, could this be a much snowier winter for you? It's starting to look that way, at least the start of it here. You see these low pressures just dropping south and along the U.S.-Canadian border of Ontario here. You see right around the 20th, 21st, 22nd, as things get really active across the United States, it starts to get a little quieter up here in Canada. This is some pretty warm air drawn all the way up through Manitoba, though, and Ontario with rain showers instead of snow. And here we are, rainfall totals, liquid equivalent for Canada. That west coast, we're looking at some serious rainfall totals on the order of 200 to 300 millimeters mountain snow. And look at southeast Canada, right around 40 to as much as 60, 70 millimeters. Look at Newfoundland here, though. Yeah, that's upwards of 150, close to 200 millimeters. And look at our snowfall here for Canada. We're really going to rack up some snowfall, not just on the mountains of the west coast here, but watch as wow, look at this. we're heading towards, the third week of November. Yeah, out here in the mountains, upwards of 90 centimeters in some areas. Look at Southeast Canada, though. Look at all the way down to Toronto. Some areas, if we look at the scale here, there's a widespread, 15, 20 centimeter amounts down here, even in southern Ontario, parts of southern Quebec. Look at most of Quebec, though. You're getting 25, 35 centimeters plus very easily. And looking at our temperatures here, yeah, you're pretty much drawn to this warmth. Look at 50s and 60s pushing their way up to the Ohio Valley. Look at these 30s starting in the Northern Plains. So that's just what you're going to want to keep an eye on. Look at this. Saturday starts to spill down, and you start to see these 40s creep across much of the Great Lakes. Look at these 80s across the Gulf Coast. But we're going to start to watch. Look at this. Sunday, right behind this system that's forming along the East Coast, we're starting to see those 30s. Look at all of Ohio in the 30s here, western New York, western Pennsylvania in the 30s. And look at Monday here, spilling that cold air eastward, even some 30s down into portions of the Appalachians. But look at this warming trend across the central parts of the country, pushing eastward as we head towards Tuesday. Still lots of 40s up here into New England and the Great Lakes. And that cold weather pretty much hangs tough with very warm weather along the south. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Yeah, Friday will feature showers afternoon, especially the evening commute. Heading up towards the mid to high 50s. Friday night showers continuing, south winds increasing. Yeah, winds are going to be gusty on Friday as well, so watch out. 32, 35, 40 mile an hour gusts. Saturday, a chance of showers. We'll look at upper 50s, so it'll be nice, but watch out for Sunday. Rain moving back in. Sunday night showers. It could end as a period of wet snow. We're going to watch out for some scattered snow showers from Monday into Tuesday as well. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, super thanks. You can smash that super thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.